Hollywood is in a hyper-political state right now, with even industry trades like Deadline Hollywood promising wall-to-wall coverage of this week's Democratic National Convention, as that is where the industry's loyalty lies. But this very clear political bias gives the industry a problem when it comes to dealing with issues and subject matters where reality and allegiance to certain political causes collide, as they have done in recent days, not just once, but twice, with Marvel's Beau DeMayo and DC's Joker himself, Joaquin Phoenix. Let's dive in. This video is sponsored by Black Forest Supplements. As we covered in our video released in the aftermath of the assassination attempt on President Trump, Hollywood has been captured by the Democratic Party since the 90s. Indeed, the centerpiece of that video was an article, again from Deadline Hollywood, gently suggesting that maybe, just maybe, it's time for Hollywood to reassess its allegiance to the party, as the ideological capture isn't doing them any favors with the audience, and as we're about to see here, the Beau DeMayo and Joaquin Phoenix situations are recent examples of just that. But before we get to them, and while we still have the assassination attempt on Trump fresh in mind, the establishment media complex memory holed that really fast, didn't they? What with both Google and a number of AI apps already claiming it never happened. If anything, to me as an outside observer, it looks like that whole incident was used to attack the Second Amendment in an attempt to take guns away from law-abiding Americans. In much the same way as the FDA is trying to take away Black Forest star product NMN. Not because it doesn't work, mind you, but because it works so well that they're trying to reclassify it as a performance-enhancing drug. NMN is vital for the functioning of 37 trillion cells in your body. A study by Harvard claims that NMN can help reduce weight, cholesterol, and even blood pressure in overweight adults, meaning it not only slows down but can functionally reverse aging. I've been taking it for several months now, and I can vouch for the positive benefits, and I want you to experience them as well. And since Black Forest sponsors this video, for the next 48 hours, you can buy 2 and get 1 for free, so you can stock up now while you still can. Link is in the description. With that, let's move on to the problems derived from Hollywood's ideological capture. Beau DeMayo is the showrunner on the pretty well-received animated revival series X-Men '97. Or rather, he was the showrunner, because he was infamously fired just as Season 1 premiered back in March. That was puzzling, because outwardly there was no good reason why he should be fired. It emerged that he had an OnlyFans account, and that there were fairly explicit pictures on it. But this apparently was not the reason, as Disney reportedly were aware of it before he was hired to work for them in the first place. There then emerged rumors that he was difficult to work with, but there were no additional rumors to lend credibility to this. And in light of the ultimately positive reception to the series, you'd think that wouldn't matter much, as plenty in Hollywood are difficult to work with. Hence, in light of Marvel's recent track record then, in addition to DeMayo's own admission that he was hired specifically because Marvel wanted him to bring his perspective as a gay black man, many drew the conclusion that he had been fired because he hadn't made X-Men '97, how do I put this? He hadn't made the series quite gay enough for Marvel's liking. Now, that may not have been the ultimate reason, but in light of the information that was available, it was the most natural conclusion to draw, and that's the issue here. In other cases of such fightings, we on the outside may not get the full details of exactly what went down, but we'd get enough to have some general idea, which is enough to accept it and move on, which is especially important when the person in question was just involved with something the audience actually responded to, like was the case with X-Men '97. There's not a lot of Disney content audiences respond to these days, so if they want fans to actually return for season 2, then letting the narrative that Beau DeMayo was fired because he didn't make season 1 gay enough spread isn't going to help much. But we have learned a bit more in recent days. DeMayo recently took to X to let the world know that when he had posted fan art of himself as Pride Cyclops in conjunction with Pride Month back in June, he had been informed by Marvel that as a result of that tweet, they would remove his writing credit on season 2 of X-Men 97. Remember, at this point, he had already been fired as showrunner, but he would still be credited as the writer on season 2, at least up until that point. This made the separation complete. So now, in August, he felt he could keep his silence no longer, as he apparently had suffered a troubling pattern of things while working on Blade and X-Men 97. So he promised to share more details soon. But first, he had to step back from social media to find a safer space for him to be out, proud and nerdy. Disney decided not to wait though, and let the industry trades know that following an internal investigation, DeMayo was fired for egregious misconduct, but again, without providing any further detail, prompting DeMayo to retweet the article on X, saying, "The truth will be revealed." After their Disney Plus disaster, Marvel wants to mislead with alleged contract breaches over tweets. It's tragic it's come to this, but unsurprising. Stay tuned. And this is Disney and Marvel's usual playbook. Legal letters, as well as other items to prove their long-standing pattern to follow. It's about finding a safe outlet. Thanks for your faith and patience. So, in other words, DeMayo is just waiting to find the right outlet to let everything be known. Meanwhile, after months of silence, Disney started leaking like a sieve. Jeff Snyder of former Collider and current InSnyder fame broke the scoop to his members, the highlights of which were further disseminated by Vulture, which stated, "Unnamed sources claimed to the InSnyder in an August 16th report that DeMayo sent young male staffers photos where he was either nude or in states of undress." Allegedly, in some of these photos, DeMayo was dressed in superhero costumes and hitting sexually suggestive poses under the pretense that they could be inspiration for the show. He allegedly continued to send these photos after being asked to stop. The InSnyder's report further includes allegations that DeMayo groped an assistant multiple times and was emotionally and physically abusive to staffers. More broadly, it alleges that DeMayo was let go from Netflix The Witcher due to similarly troubling behavior. So is that it then? Are these inside reports that all of a sudden leak now indicative of what happened, or is there more to it? DeMayo's attorney feels that way, because the Vulture piece continues. After Marvel issued its statement, and to be clear, that would be the one to Variety, not the anonymous leaks, DeMayo tweeted that Disney and Marvel were following their usual playbook, adding legal letters as well as other items to prove their long-standing pattern to follow. His attorney, Brian Friedman, similarly said in a statement to Vulture that he plans to prove that Disney follows a playbook of secretly attempting to plant illegal, unconscionable items in contracts that silence the truth and stop the employee/customer from asserting basic constitutional rights. The statement goes on to accuse Disney's international well-oiled publicity machine of gaslighting and redirecting blame toward anyone who tries to expose the truth. Friedman claims that he will expose this bullying and illegal conduct with the help of evidence and multiple clients who are willing to share their experiences. Beau DeMayo wants nothing from Marvel and Disney except the truth, the attorney's statement concludes. He will bravely tell the truth. So will I. Stand by. In other words, we on the outside don't know what has happened or who is in the right. All we got are leaks. And here's the kicker, we have no way of knowing if they are genuine leaks or planted leaks aimed at protecting Disney. But for their own sake, Disney better be right about the claims in those leaks and be ready to prove them, because if they can't, this is about to get ugly. Or rather, it already is, no matter what actually happened here. If the anonymous leaks indeed are accurate, which we don't know, but let's for the sake of argument say that they are, and DeMayo really did sexually harass and send unsolicited dick pics to young male staffers, even straight ones, then the problem isn't that he was fired just as the series was about to premiere, after an internal investigation, but that there was any investigation at all, and that he wasn't fired the second the first allegation was made. Because make no mistake about it, that's what would have happened to any other showrunner accused of that. Case in point, when the old tweets of James Gunn were unearthed, there was no internal investigation. Hell, Kevin Feige wasn't even consulted about whether or not removing him would have any adverse impact on the MCU. No, Alan Horn fired James Gunn from Disney on the spot, and there was never any sugarcoating about why that was done. Now, I'm not saying that was the right course of action, mind you, far from it. It arguably ruined Marvel. I just want to highlight the difference in standards here. That there even was an internal investigation is testament to how differently DeMayo was treated, which I think was a direct result of Disney's adherence to the party line and prevailing ideology in Disney and Hollywood at large. The flip side here is Gina Carano, whose conservative stance always put a bullseye on her back, and indeed, when she was fired, or not renewed if you want to be technical about it, Lucasfilm even put out a public statement tarring and feathering her, thus paving the way for a lawsuit which is unlikely to go well for Disney. And now they may soon get another lawsuit courtesy of Beau DeMayo, so they better hope the anonymous leaks coming out about him are accurate, because if they're not, that lawsuit is gonna turn out real bad for them as well. The irony here, of course, is that if this does indeed proceed to a lawsuit, it will be the result of a different set of standards being applied to Carano and DeMayo. Due to the ideology that Disney and Hollywood at large are beholden to, DeMayo is seen as belonging to an underrepresented group deserving of unique protections, while Carano was anything but, leading the two to be let go in very different ways. And Disney could now very well end up with 2 lawsuits over it, both of which could have been avoided if they had simply treated everyone equally, even if that may have gone against their equitable ideology and party loyalty. That's what happens when different standards are applied, and when there is an ideopolitical dimension to any subject matter. Things can quickly get ugly, and oftentimes needlessly so. This brings us to Joaquin Phoenix. On August 9th, IndieWire dropped the exclusive that Joaquin Phoenix dropped out of an untitled gay romance film 5 days before it was set to shoot. It would have been Phoenix's first gay role, and he pushed for it to be very explicitly so, before suddenly dropping out. And he's not just some actor that can be replaced. He's the producer and one of the key driving forces behind the movie in the first place. The whole production was in no small part funded by foreign pre-sales, which were contingent on him being in it. So with him dropping out now, the whole production falls apart. The crew still needs to be paid, and all production partners need to be compensated, so this is going to be a very expensive ordeal for Phoenix. This is all in that original story, but what was not there is any hint of why he dropped out. That was added later by Variety, who said a source close to the production tells Variety the actor got cold feet. That may be accurate, and then again, it may not be, as this is an anonymous source, while the director has previously been public about Phoenix being the one who wanted to go all the way, to the point of pushing for an NC-17 rating. And if he were to change his mind about that at some point, then as a producer and lead driving force, Phoenix could roll that back to PG-13 level at any time if he so chose. So that he would have dropped out and made himself liable to pay out millions of his own pocket just because he got cold feet on his own movie that he pushed for seems off, even if some nameless source suggests that's what happened. But let's be clear about what that one additional detail that Variety put out there actually means. So, the story went from Phoenix dropping out of a movie in the last minute, which no one outside the production gave two shits about, and those in the production will all get over once they're paid, to Joaquin Phoenix killing a gay movie because he got cold feet, by implication because he's a homophobe. And that got picked up across Hollywood, the various gay news outlets, and even other mainstream news outlets, worldwide. All because of one sentence credited to an anonymous source in Variety. The end result of that one sentence is that Joaquin Phoenix is smeared, and a big chunk of the gay community are turned off by him. And even if Lady Gaga is in it, many are threatening to boycott Joker 2, all over what technically, as of now, remains an anonymous, unsubstantiated accusation. Phoenix himself hasn't dispelled any rumors here, but given the current political climate, a climate which Hollywood and the Hollywood trades certainly share their part of the blame in getting as heated as it is, they might want to be able to substantiate implied accusations of homophobia a tad more before making them. Let me know your thoughts on all of this, and before you go, remember to stock up on NMN before it's reclassified as a drug, because it is that efficient. Use the link in the description or pinned comment, where for the next 48 hours you can buy 2 and get 1 for free.